Good morning. Day 5, Feeling Feelings Challenge. Welcome. Today's Friday, so I've got the Friday feels on, knowing that the weekend is not too far away now, so that's really exciting. I'm also just feeling quite joyful, content and happy at the minute. That's off of having yesterday had a little Christmas gathering with some divine women. So still got the lovely feels from that level of connection, which is really, really beautiful. So yeah, good day. Considering how I've been for the all the other lives this week, where I've just been really flat and just pushing on. So today's topic is blocks to feeling, and this is one of the really important and critical ones. So I'm just going to reel them off because there's quite a few that I personally have identified and worked with. So the very first one is to fucking give ourselves time to feel. Oh, wow. Okay, that's brought some stuff up for me. All right. I wasn't expecting that. So thank you for witnessing. Just giving ourselves time. Yeah, it's really struck a nerve, hasn't it? So what I'm doing right now is I'm just processing this. I wasn't expecting to have such a reaction, but there it is. Okay, so I'm not making it go away. I'm not making it wrong. I'm certainly not shaming myself. Okay, this could definitely be a level of embarrassment. I'm doing a live right now on feelings, and here it comes. So just sitting with it, acknowledging it. It's already dissipated. You might be able to tell just by what you're seeing right now. So yeah, time. Here we go. I'm back. So giving ourselves time and honoring those feelings and not making them wrong. We live in a ridiculously busy culture, and probably the last thing we've all got, the resource of infinite abundance, is time. Okay, we're all so stretched. I think one of my favorite, not my favorite, actually dislike me saying it, but he's saying, oh my God, it's December already. I can't believe it. Where's the year gone? But it is so true. Time is flying. Time is speeding up. And so if we want all the benefits that come of being superhuman, by being able to work with and process our feelings and emotions as they come up, we need to give ourselves the time to do that. Okay, I am infinitely grateful that I have been able to create a scenario where I do have that time. It's come with a lot of sacrifices. From a monetary perspective, it's come with sacrificing so many other things, and it comes from thankfully having great loving support around me to be able to do that. Now, that being said, you don't need endless days to be able to do this work. You saw what just happened. I don't know how many seconds or minutes that was. Okay, but I allowed that and I processed that. Now, admittedly, I've been doing this for quite a few years, so it gets easier and you can get through things a lot quicker. And what happens is the more we accept and acknowledge and love what's going on for ourselves, the quicker this work, the magic happens, the transmutation happens. Okay, emotions, energy, emotions. So there was an energy that came up in me as a result of just feeling so passionate about people creating time for themselves to do this work. Yeah. And that's what it is. I feel so sad that we live in a world where we can't do the most basic and human of things, and that is to feel. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, blocks to feeling is actually giving ourselves the time and allowing that. Okay, and if we keep saying, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, then we are rejecting, we are repressing, and we are storing that in our body. Okay, since doing a lot of the work that I do, I have not been healthier. My immune system is pretty good. It's definitely drastically improved with having done a lot of the emotional work. Okay, I don't want to store stuff in my body where I can help it. Okay, so Dr. Andrea, her advice is do this. It's good for us. It's really, really good for us. All right, so speaking of health bodies, the number 2 block to feeling is not being in our bodies. The majority of us humans are not consciously in our bodies. This was not something that I had any awareness of until through one of my experiments, namely plant medicine. Okay, now that is an extreme one, so so through that work, I was put back in my body. Okay, and the nice thing is through that journey, it shared me when I actually consciously left my body, and it was when I was quite young. I was roller skating and I slipped and fell on my coccyx bone, and more than likely broke it. Okay, it never got actually treated. However, and then what happened is I got up and then I fell smack bang on it and did it again. So within a couple of minutes. And what happened is that was so traumatic, so painful physically, that my consciousness, to protect itself, whoosh, left the body. Okay, now I know this does sound quite etherical, a bit woo-woo or whatever, but this was my experience. Okay, so through that journey, I came back into conscious awareness of being in my body, and wow. Okay, now the thing is, quite often for many of us that have had things going on for most of our life, is that we don't have a point of reference for it. So because I didn't know that I had left my body, it had happened so young, then I had lived my whole life being out of my body. Okay, so I didn't know any different. A fish doesn't know that it swims or that it's surrounded by water. Okay, why would it? It doesn't know any different. Okay, if I was born without a limb and I didn't know any different, I wouldn't know what the sensation is or the feeling is to have an arm. Okay, as opposed to someone who has an arm, has an accident and loses it, well, they're conscious. They're very aware of what they used to have and now what they haven't got. Okay, so most of us are not in our bodies. Okay, now, although I have had the experience of coming back into my body, I'm now very aware when I go other places. Okay, I'm very much have been a future-focused person, and I work very hard now to bring myself to presence. Okay, so what are some of the things we can do if we're not in our body? Okay, is just feel. Right now, notice my feet. Right now, notice my head. And again, give myself time, quiet contemplation time, to just notice the various sensations that come up in the body. Do you notice when you get goosebumps? Do you notice when you get little tingling sensations in various limbs? Can you hear your heartbeat? Okay, these are the things that we can start to do. Dance, okay, not the struggling. Okay, dance in terms of how you would dance if nobody's watching, just feeling into how the body wants to move. Okay, this is a really beautiful practice for getting ourselves back in body. Okay. As I said, I had the experience of being brought back in rather suddenly, and there are some gorgeous, like, life just felt better being consciously back in my body. Even drinking water felt different, tasted different. There was, there was so much, so much. We are brought up by design to not be in our bodies. People who are not in their bodies are easier to control. I'm not going to go into that anymore. I'll just leave that at that. Tai Chi and another one I can't say, Gui Kong. Tai Chi and Gui Kong are also beautiful, subtle, soft movement practices, and actually on that note, yoga. Okay, depending on the type. Yin yoga is a good one. So all of these movement practices to bring us back. Oh, wow. I didn't realize how passionate I actually was about this topic, but it's huge. Okay. All right. There might be feelings that we don't have points of reference for, meaning we have never had an experience of them. We perhaps grew up in an environment where our primary caregivers, those that were around us, didn't have points of reference for various feelings and emotions. And as children, if we don't see that, then we don't have that to model. Okay. It could well be that our primary caregivers were repressing, rejecting those particular feelings, and so therefore we just never saw it. If we don't know it, we don't know it. So for this one, finding people that are really tapped into that particular feeling, and just observing them. If you can, ask them, what's that like for them? How does it feel? What's this internal sensation that's going on in them? Okay. Okay. Another share. Just by setting the intention. Okay, so anger, I have mentioned, is something it's not that I haven't got a point of reference for it. It's one of the other blocks that I've got, which is I've got a story around anger. And so it's a difficult one for me to really tap into. So set the intention of wanting to. Okay, so just simply say it out loud, say it internally, write it down. I want to work with the feeling of anger and get to know that and heal those aspects of myself around that. Okay. I do a lot of healing work in my dream state. I'll save that for another time and talk about it a bit more holistically. However, if just before drifting off to sleep, you set that intention, okay, you're then giving it to your dream time to process. I do a lot of emotional processing in my dream state. Even last night, I had something a bit scary in my dream happen, and I felt the fear, and I worked with it in my dream state. Great efficient use of sleep time. And I actually wake up more refreshed than not. So I love my the work I do in that space. Okay. All right. So this one, we may have a point of reference for it, but it wasn't safe to feel or express or have that feeling or emotion. A good example, and this actually happened to me, is I was very young, I was at primary school, and I was feeling joy. I was actually skipping, happy little girl, skipping along, and in that moment, another child came up and smacked me in the guts, and it totally winded me. Now, what can happen is either consciously I link the being smacked and the pain and the physical trauma that happened as a result of being hit by this other child with the feeling of joy. Okay. Now, I might make that as a conscious decision and go, oh, that's bad. I'm not going to feel that again because, this happened. This was the outcome and I don't want that again, and therefore avoid it. Okay. Or what might happen is unconsciously that decision gets made. Okay, and then years later I wondered, gee, I never can really tap into joy. Okay, and I might remember that scenario or I might not. Okay, so we can create belief systems in the moment, okay, as to whether something was safe or not. Okay, it might be that I was mucking around, expressing a particular feeling and got in trouble for it. Okay, and in that moment go, well, that's not safe. I'm being rejected by my primary caregivers. That's not safe. And then start to reject, okay, and not allow that feeling in. So the remedy for this one, compassion. Okay, and all the other things. So acknowledge, accept, and love that part of myself. Okay, all feelings and emotions are valid. Okay, so yes, as a grown adult, I know that it wasn't logical to link joy to being unsafe because the one moment I felt really intense joy, I had that scenario go on. Okay, so just really opening up myself and being allow for the grief could well be the under emotion of that I can then work with. Okay, so if I now feel numb and blocked to joy, okay, no point working with it because it's blocked, right? But just accept, acknowledge, and show compassion to that part that had the experience that then made that unsafe. Okay, and then so what we do is there's a process. This has come up in 3 different modalities that I have learned. Okay, so Brandon Bay's The Journey, and it's called Dropping Down Through the Heart or Dropping Down Through Our Emotions. It's also come up in the Matrix work that I've done of Pip McKay's, and also more recently I was listening to some Matt Kahn, and he used a very similar process. Instead of dropping down through, he was like, right, so move that numbness aside, and now what's next? Okay, so if I drop down through the numbness of not feeling joy, what's next? Okay, I might feel sadness. Okay, I'll feel that, work with that, then drop down through it. What's under that? And there might be grief for the young child that discarded her joy in that moment. Okay. yeah, it's a beautiful practice. It's something I actually work with my clients in coaching scenarios, but it is something, if you're curious to sort of work with for yourself, yeah, Brandon Bay's The Journey would be a really good resource for you to examine, and even, yeah, I'm sure there's resources online. If you're to talk about dropping down through feelings or emotions. Yeah. So acceptance of any parts that we have rejected. So for me, the story around the repression of anger is very much as well, good girls don't get angry. Okay. And for me, I needed to be a good girl. Okay. That was really important to my survival in childhood, is to fit that. And that was, if I was to feel that I was being the good girl, then I was more likely to receive the love that I needed. Okay, there's a whole lot more I can talk about that. So when we reject those parts, so I rejected the angry part of myself, then what I can do is just accept, love, acknowledge, and be compassionate towards that part of myself. Okay, so the part that doesn't feel anger, okay, and just be with it. Okay, I can do some dropping down through with that as well. Okay, one that I have worked with is also, well, just allowing the anger, so journaling with it, all of the things that I talked about the other day about how to feel. So journaling with it, getting physical with it. Okay, what does this anger look like if I start to tap into it? And if I can't, if it's still numb, then act as if I am. If I was angry, what would that look like? And physically play that out and allow it to be expressed. With a lot of these things, we don't get it the first time. Okay, this is where time is important, and saying, all right, I'm just setting the intention that this will take as long as it needs to. And it might be a daily practice of, all right, let's do anger today. Today I'm going to journal it. Tomorrow I'm going to dance it. Yeah, whatever. Okay, I think that's it. Just finishing up with how this sort of works, and that is when we've got these blocks to particular feelings and emotions, is that quite often we then develop other habits that then assist us in continuing to repress, deny, and reject these parts of ourselves. So things like overeating, social media is a fantastic way to distract ourselves from things that are going on. And I deliberately will ensure that at times I don't have my phone on me, so that I can then just be checking in and seeing what things come up without having that device to reach for. And that's where, not being busy and just giving us the time. I was going somewhere with that. So what happens is, when we have these blocks to particular emotions, is that we're actually numbing our ability to feel everything. Okay, bad news. The work of Brene Brown, I could not recommend more highly. She's got great TED Talks available. Definitely listen to those. And she just articulates it so well, and she's got all the academic research to back up all of her work. Her books are sensational in the field of vulnerability in particular. However, it opens up the can of worms on everything. So when we numb one particular part, what we actually do is we're dulling down everything. Okay, so the beautiful thing that starts to happen when we do this work is that we start to experience greater highs. So if I'm open to working with the more unpleasant emotions and feeling those through, and healing them, then what happens is that I then feel greater highs. Okay, so it's you numb one, you numb them all. Okay, so as you can see, that's a pretty big thing to think, well, yeah, if there's some parts of myself that I'm hiding away from, well, then we're actually decreasing our levels of enjoyment, our joy, in essence, our pleasure. So there's a lot. There's a lot to be gained from all of this. And again, I guess that's just where my passion around this comes from. I do work around so many different things like goal setting, focusing on what people want, working out what the blocks are to what people want. It always circles back. It always comes down to feelings and emotions and doing work around this. Okay, it's the key. Okay, so depending on where a client's at, I will work as quickly as possible to get them to where we can have these levels of discussions and actually do the processes around enhancing our ability to feel and dialing up our emotions. That's it for now. I will, I've still got 2 more lives to do, talk about all the benefits that come and what the sort of different meanings can be behind the particular feelings that we're having. Yeah. All right. So happy Friday. This was a big one. This is probably one of the bigger ones I've done. And I'm still giggling a bit over how it kicked off. So if you've just jumped on later, do yourself a favor and go watch just the first 5 minutes. You don't have to watch any more after that. But yeah, that kind of gives you an indicator about what I'm talking about here. All right, happy Fridays. Thank you for listening. Any questions, you can post them in the comments, or if you'd prefer, send me a message and I can answer it for you through that. So yeah. All right. Cheers.